welcome to my channel. My name is Anita and I am designer and maker behind yarnS. In today's video, I'll show you how to make Gaia Summer Top in toddler size. This will be a beginner to intermediate crochet project and I'll be using US stitch terminology throughout the video. I have the written pattern for all sizes available from toddler all the way through 4XL for purchase on my website. So if you want to make this top in larger sizes, you can follow that pattern. When it comes to the materials for this project, we'll be using 100% cotton yarn, fine weight. And I'll be using 3 different colors. I purchased this yarn from Hobbii and it's their rainbow cotton quality 8 out of 6. And the recommended hook is 3 to 3.5 millimeters, but we'll be using 4 millimeter crochet hook. And as I said, I'll be using 3 different colors of this yarn, and I'll link them all in the description box. Then you'll need a pair of scissors, some beads to put on our tassels, and this is totally optional. And then we'll need a stitch marker and a tapestry needle. So once you have all of the materials ready, the first thing we want to do is make 6 daisy granny squares. And if you've never crocheted this type of granny square, you can watch this video that should pop up on your screen where I explain step by step on how to do a daisy granny square. So do 6 of these granny squares first, pause the video and meet me back once you're done. Once you have all of the granny squares ready, we are going to connect them, like so, creating this long stripe that will be the bottom piece of our project. And then for the top piece, we'll do a panel which will connect to our granny squares later. And now I'll show you how I connect my granny squares. You can do this really any way you prefer, but I just love using this technique because it complements the design so much. So we'll take the same yarn color as our last round of the square. And what I like to do when connecting this way is go into that second chain of our chain 2 in the corner, so right here, and on this side it will be your very first stitch, and I'll go through the back loop of this stitch. So again, here in the corner you'll have 2 stitches and we'll go into the back loop of the second one, just like so. And then I'll take my second granny square and do the same. So this is chain 1, chain 2, and I'll go into this second chain through the back loop. And then I'll get a new piece of yarn and I'll pull it through like so. Now from here I'll go into the next stitch, back loop only, and the back loop on the opposite side. Grab my yarn and pull through, and slip stitch. Then into the next stitch, and the stitch on the opposite side, through the back loop only, and slip stitch. So this is what we'll do for the entire side here. We'll go through back loops of each next stitch, and slip stitch until the 2 squares are connected. And you should have 10 slip stitches total. Again, if you find this too complicated, you can connect your granny squares any way you prefer. But see here how it creates this nice braided pattern. And it's really worth the struggle. Each side of the granny square has 11 stitches, but we pulled the yarn through that first stitch and that was our starting stitch. Make sure you don't skip any stitches, since it will result in uneven connection. So just continue slip stitching until you have 10 slip stitches total. Okay, this is my last slip stitch, and you should finish at the first chain in the corner. And you can see how nice and neat this looks like. As I said, you'll have 10 slip stitches total for this connection. Now you can cut your yarn and pull it out. And then go ahead and do the same with all of the 6 granny squares you have. Pause the video and meet me back once you're done. Now that we have all of our squares connected, the next thing that we'll do is single crochet all around these 6 granny squares. And I'm going to take the same color yarn. And then with my hook, I'll go into any of these stitches. It doesn't really matter much which stitch you work into, but I'll actually start from here. Take my new piece of yarn, like that, and pull it through. And then what I'll do is take my tail and wrap it around my hook like so. And then I'll yarn over and pull through. This will be our first single crochet. Then we'll go into the next stitch and do another single crochet. And this is what we'll essentially do all around the granny squares, including the joining stitches, which I'll show you how to do in a second. As you can see here, I'm carrying my tails as I go. It just makes it easier later on, when I have to weave them all in. When it comes to these 2 chains in the corner, I actually like to go in between the 2 loops and the back loop. You absolutely don't have to do this, I just like to make my life harder, I guess. But I just like how it looks like this. Then continue single crocheting over the top of granny squares until the first connection, and then I'll show you how to crochet over it. So I'll work into that chain 1 in the corner first. And then I'll go into the middle of this last slip stitch, like so. I'll also grab that back loop that the last slip stitch went through on both sides. So both back loops, the last slip stitch went through. And then grab my yarn and pull through. And do my single crochet. And this is how it should look like. Then do another single crochet in that chain in the corner. And then continue single crocheting all around until you get to that starting point. Pause and meet me back so we can start working on our panel. Okay, so I've crocheted all around, and I actually just want to show you how to go over the connection on the bottom since it is a little bit different. So again, we'll work into that chain in our corner. And then here's where we pull that yarn through to start slip stitching. So we'll just go through that back loop and then the back loop on the stitch on the opposite side, and then pull through. And that's how we crochet over the connection of these bottom stitches. Now just continue single crocheting, first into that chain, and then over the last granny square, until you reach the very first stitch we did on this round. So this will be my last single crochet, and now I'll cut my yarn and pull out the tail like so. And to make a nice and seamless connection, I'll go into that very first stitch through both loops, grab the tail and pull it to the front. Now go into the last stitch from the bottom and through the middle, and pull that tail through again like so. And then pull the tail in the back. Now when you look from the top, you have this nice seamless connection, and this tail will weave in later. Now we have all these little tails left here because I was crocheting over only the first half for most of these tails. Because what I like to do to make sure they won't come out is take my tapestry needle and hide them going into the opposite direction from where the tail is coming through. And like this, the tails are not likely to get pulled out. Cut the remaining yarn and do the same with the rest of the tails. Pause and meet me back and we'll start working on the panel. Okay, here I have the entire bottom finished with all of my 6 granny squares connected. I've single crocheted all around and all of my ends are weaved in. Now we'll start working on the panel, which will connect to the squares later on. So first, I'll leave this on the side and I'll take the same color yarn again. I'll grab my 4mm crochet hook, and to start the panel, we'll be making a magic ring first. And I'll show you a nice way of starting a magic ring when doing a double crochet. So I'll wrap the yarn around my pointer finger 2 times, having the tail on the outer side like so. And then with my hook, I'll go under that second loop that I have on my finger, and we'll pull it up like so. Then twist the hook, making the little loop here. And then I'll go under the first loop around my finger. Then grab the yarn and pull it through, twisting your hook back. And now we have these 2 loops on our hook. Now we'll yarn over again and pull it through both loops on the hook. And then we can let go of everything and prepare for crocheting. Now here we have our magic ring, and we also have this stitch here, but we're not done yet. What we want to do now is go back through that first post or the first loop that was previously on our hook. So it's this loop right here. Grab the yarn and pull it through. Now we have 2 loops on our hook again. and we'll yarn over and pull through both loops. And now we have something that resembles a double crochet, much more than a chain 2 would. This is something that we call a foundation double crochet, and we will count this as our very first stitch. I just love starting my double crochet rows like this because it leaves me with such clean look and without awkward holes or bumps on my ends. Now I'll continue double crocheting into this magic ring, and we'll do 6 double crochets all together. And with our foundation chain, we'll have 7 stitches total on our first round. So this is my last double crochet, and counting that foundation chain, I have 7 stitches total. Now I'll pull my tail to close this big loop here. And this is how our first row will look like. As I said before, we'll have 7 stitches total, 3 on one side, 3 on the other side, and 1 in the middle. So this one in the middle will be very important because we'll be increasing this stitch by 5 every row. So we'll do 5 double crochets in this stitch, each row as we go. So if you want, you can place your stitch marker on that stitch as well, so you keep the track of your stitches easier and you'll know exactly which stitch you have to increase. I won't use it now since it's only 7 stitches and I can easily recognize which one is the middle stitch. But as we work more rows and increase the number of stitches, this will be very useful. So now we'll start the next row, and I'll show you how to do a foundation double crochet when starting a new row. You can always chain 2 to start, but I find this way to give me a much neater finish. So we'll turn our work without chaining, and then I'll go back into the first stitch through both loops. Yarn over and pull through. And now I have these 2 loops on my hook. I'll yarn over and pull through both loops. Then I'll go back into this first post, so this first loop here. Don't go back through both loops because that'll just undo your stitch. So we'll go through this loop here. Yarn over and pull through. And we'll have 2 loops on our hook again. Yarn over and pull through both loops. And this is how you do foundation double crochet. And we'll count it as a first stitch. And as we go, we'll be increasing the first and last stitch by 1. So now into this very first stitch, we'll do a double crochet. And with this foundation double crochet counting as a stitch, we'll have 2 stitches together. Now we'll go on to the next stitch and do another double crochet here. And then into the next stitch, 1 more double crochet. And now we worked into 3 stitches. And we have 4 stitches total, counting that first foundation double crochet. And into this 4th stitch, we'll be placing 5 double crochets together. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we did 5 double crochets into this stitch. And now we'll mark this 3rd double crochet with a stitch marker because that will be the stitch that will increase by 5 on the next row. So just remember, it will be that 3rd double crochet out of 5 we did. And now we'll do 2 more double crochets into next 2 stitches. And then in this last stitch, we'll be doing 2 double crochets together, since, as I said in the beginning, we'll be increasing the first and the last stitch by 2 each row. I didn't finish this second double crochet for a reason, because this is where I'll be changing my color. So I'll stop when I have 2 loops on my hook. And then I'll take my new color yarn and I'll go for this beige color next, since I'll be using the same colors as I did on my granny squares. So what I like to do next is just take this new color yarn and pull it through those last 2 loops of my double crochet like so. And then I'll turn my work without chaining. And what you can do here is take the tail and wrap it around the hook, like so. And then I'll yarn over and pull through. Now we'll do a foundation double crochet again, and we'll go back into that first post. Yarn over and pull through 1, and yarn over and pull through 2. This is just one option on how you can do this. It's nice since it will keep our tail in place, but on the second color change I'll show you a different option. Now I'll do 1 more double crochet into this very first stitch, and there will be 2 stitches together. Now we'll go on to the next stitch and we'll keep on doing double crochets into every stitch until we reach that stitch marker. And you should have 5 double crochets total. And then into this middle third double crochet, we'll do 5 double crochets together. Again, we'll place our stitch marker back into that third double crochet to mark where we'll be placing 5 double crochets for the next row. And then do another 5 double crochets into next 5 stitches. And finally, we'll be increasing our very last stitch by placing 2 double crochets together. Then turn your work and do a foundation double crochet to start our next row. And then into the same stitch we'll do 1 double crochet. Now we'll do 1 double crochet into each stitch until we reach our stitch marker, and we'll have 8 double crochets total on this side. We'll remove our stitch marker and do 5 double crochets together into the same stitch. And now we'll go down the other side and do 8 more double crochets. And if you can notice, we are increasing each row by 6 stitches, 3 on one side and 3 on the other side. We have that first and last stitch where we are adding 1 extra stitch, and then we have those stitches in the middle, 2 on each side. And that's 6 stitches more for every next row. Now I'll do 2 double crochets together in this last stitch. Again, I won't finish this last double crochet since I'll be changing my color again, in the similar way as we did with our 3rd row. So I'll take my new color yarn and pull through. Turn my work, and now, as I said, I'll show you a bit different way of starting with a new color. So instead of wrapping my tail around the hook, I'll just go into that very first stitch, grab the working yarn and pull through. Yarn over and pull through both loops. Go back into the first post, yarn over and pull through one loop, yarn over and pull through both loops. And this is our first stitch for this round. Now let's do 1 double crochet into the same stitch. And then we'll do 1 double crochet into the next stitch. And now we'll do something that is called spike double crochet. So what we'll do for this stitch is the same like with the regular double crochet, it's just that we'll be inserting our hook into the stitch from the previous row. So it will be this stitch where our double crochet is coming out of. And if we follow our double crochet to the previous row, it will be this stitch right here. So we work into this stitch, pull the yarn on the same level as our current row, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. And this is our first spike double crochet. So now we have to make sure we won't be working into that same stitch, but we move on onto the next one and we'll do 2 regular double crochets. Now after we did 2 double crochets, we'll do 1 spike double crochet. So again, follow that stitch that your double crochet is coming out of, pull the yarn a bit higher, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And now we'll skip that stitch and work into the next one. And we'll do 2 regular double crochets. Followed by 1 spike double crochet. Then we'll do 1 more set of 2 double crochets and 1 spike double crochet. Last spike double crochet will go into that stitch our 5 double crochets are coming out of. And then our next stitch is that 3rd double crochet and our middle stitch, which we have to work into 5 times. So do 5 double crochets together. And then on this side, we'll repeat the exact same stitches as on the previous side. So we'll do 1 spike double crochet, followed by 2 double crochets. And we'll do this sequence 3 times. So 1 spike double crochet, followed by 2 double crochets. And now this is my last spike double crochet for this side. And then I'll do 1 double crochet into the next stitch. And finally, I do 2 double crochets into this last stitch. So 2 stitches together. We'll turn our work, and now we'll start our next row with the foundation double crochet. And then 1 double crochet into the same stitch. Now for this entire row, we'll do 1 double crochet into each stitch until we reach that 3rd double crochet in the middle. And we'll have 14 double crochets total on this side. So now into this 3rd double crochet, we'll do 5 double crochets together. Followed by 14 double crochets more for this second side. Now, as I said in the beginning, you can find a written pattern for this top in sizes from toddler, which is the one we are making right now, all the way to adult for XL on my website. You can of course use this video as a reference since we are using the same techniques of constructing this top. But for each size, the number of stitches and rows will be different. The pattern includes photos, granny square diagrams, and written pattern, all the materials and links to yarn substitution, and step-by-step explanations for each size, as I said, up to 4XL. Now on this last stitch, I'll do 2 double crochets together. And since on the next row I'll use a different color, I won't be finishing this last double crochet, and I'll get my new yarn color. And I'll go back to the same color which I used on the first 2 rows. So I'll just grab that working yarn I left off when I finished the second row, pull it through, turn my work, and I'll start my row as usual with the foundation double crochet. Then do the first double crochet into the same stitch. So that's 2 stitches together. And now I'll continue double crocheting until that middle stitch. So we'll basically just repeat the previous row. And we'll have 3 extra stitches on each side. That's 6 more stitches for this row. So now we'll do 17 double crochets, 5 double crochets together, then 17 double crochets on the other side, and 2 double crochets together. Then do 1 more row with 6 extra stitches. Pause the video and meet me back where we do our next spike double crochet row. Okay, I have my 8 rows completed, and now we'll be changing our color again. And we'll go back to my beige color, and I'll do the same thing as I did with my previous row. I'll just bring that yarn and pull it through. Then I'll turn my work and I'll do my starting foundation double crochet. And again, do 1 double crochet in the same stitch. Then into the next stitch, we'll do 1 more double crochet. And now again, we'll be doing our spike double crochet into the following stitch. Now we'll do our sequence of 2 double crochet and then 1 spike double crochet, then again 2 double crochets, followed by 1 spike double crochet. We will repeat this sequence 7 times total until you reach that middle stitch where you do 5 double crochets together. And then on the opposite side, you repeat the same number of stitches, where you start with 1 spike double crochet, then 2 double crochet, and repeat it 7 times. And then lastly, 1 spike double crochet followed by 1 double crochet. You can pause the video and meet me back once you've finished. Okay, here we have the entire row 9 completed. Now we'll do our 10th row, which we'll actually do a bit differently. So we'll start the row as we usually would, with the foundation double crochet. And 1 double crochet together. Then followed by 25 double crochets. So this is my 25th double crochet or 27th stitch total, with that increase in the first stitch. And now into this next stitch we'll do 1 double crochet, and then 1/2 double crochet into the same stitch. Then into this next stitch we'll do 5 single crochets together. So that's 5 single crochets together. And now on the other side I'll do 1/2 double crochet, and then 1 double crochet in the same stitch. So like this, we'll have this edge here straight. So we did 27 stitches on this side, 1 double crochet, 1/2 double crochet together, and 5 single crochets in the same stitch. Now on this side we do 1/2 double crochet, 1 double crochet, and then we'll do 25 double crochet for this side, plus 2 double crochets together in the last stitch. And that's 27 stitches total. Finish this side, pause, and meet me back once you're done. So these are all of the 7 rows completed. Now we'll be doing half rows only, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. So I'll change my color first, and I'll go back to my darkest color shade. Again, bringing the yarn I left off with the previous row. Pull through and turn your work. Here, just make sure that you are not pulling on the yarn too tight and you have enough stretch on the bottom. Again, we'll start the row by doing a foundation double crochet and 1 double crochet together. Then we'll continue double crocheting until we reach that last double crochet of the side on our previous row. So it will be that stitch right before our half double crochet, and you'll have 29 stitches total. So this is my last double crochet, and as I said before, for this row we'll have 29 stitches total. Foundation double crochet and double crochet together in the first stitch, followed by 27 double crochet. Now we won't be continuing this row, but we'll turn our work and we'll do our next row across the same side. So turn your work and we'll do our foundation double crochet into that very first stitch. And now we actually won't be doing a double crochet in the same stitch, but we'll move on onto the next one and do our double crochet in this stitch here. And now we'll continue double crocheting across this entire side until we reach the last stitch, where we'll do 2 double crochets together. And we'll have 28 stitches total. After you finish this row, you'll fasten off and repeat these 2 rows on the other side of our panel in the same color and sequence. So we'll have 2 rows on one side and 2 rows on the other side. Finish off all that and then meet me on the part 2 of this video and we'll start assembling our top.